Hillary Clinton just threw Biden under the bus. Unbelievable.
But once he didn't move and held on for as long as he did, we were in a terrible dilemma.
She was also given a chance to walk back her, quote, basket of deplorables remark, but somehow managed to make things even worse.
You were criticized a lot, probably rightly, for using the word deplorables for many of his followers.
Well, first of all, I said only about half were.
And today we're telling you why she's trying to change the story and clean up the party's mess. So let's kick things off with her comment from last week.
When you look back on his decision to run, did he make a terrible mistake?
He made a terrible mistake. He made a terrible mistake for himself, his legacy, and for the country. He had said that he would not run again. And, counterfactual narratives are always a bit tricky. But I believe if he had kept to that plan and said in, say, the late summer of 23 that he wasn't going to run, that he was going to pass, the torch to the next generation, we would have had a real contest. And very sadly, I believe whoever emerged from that contest, whether it was the vice president or a governor or a senator or anybody else, would have beaten Donald Trump. But once he didn't move and held on for as long as he did, we were in a terrible dilemma.
This has become the Democrats' go-to talking point, and they're pushing it as if everything depends on it. The argument is pretty simple. Biden waited too long to drop out, and that's supposedly why they lost in 2024. It started with Nancy Pelosi just 4 days after the loss. Then Kamala released an entire book arguing, quote, allowing Joe Biden to seek re-election was recklessness. As if primary voters had no say in the matter. The DNC's own post-election autopsy followed the same script, blaming the Biden campaign for failing to properly set Harris up. And now, Hillary has jumped on the bandwagon too. But the internet never forgets. So here's Hillary fully supporting Biden while dismissing questions about his age when he was still the party's frontrunner against Trump.
Do you think President Biden should run again in 2024?
I think that's totally his decision. Absolutely. I think he's done a really terrific job. Everything that has been accomplished against pretty difficult odds is quite remarkable. And so, yes, I want him to run if that's what he wants to do. And of course, I'll support him.
If he doesn't run, will you?
No, no, I won't. But I think he is going to run, and I want to make sure we continue the progress.
Do you think the questions about his age are legitimate?
Well, the question's legitimate, but the conclusion that people draw is, I think, off base. Look, I am supporting President Biden and Vice President Harris because of what they've gotten accomplished. I'm kind of old-fashioned that way. I like to see people, as I said, tackle big problems, bring people together, and try to forge solutions.
See, there's an old saying that JFK referenced after the failed invasion at the Bay of Pigs, and it goes, quote, victory has 100 fathers and defeat is an orphan. That's exactly what's happening with the Democrats and the 2024 election. In their mind, if the attempt of making Biden the fall guy succeeds, people would magically forget about the cover-up of his mental decline, the record inflation, the open borders, the rise in crime, and the fact that the party hasn't held a fair primary in the past decade. Believe me, I never thought I'd be defending President Biden of all people, but pretending he's the only reason the Democrats lost is nothing short of propaganda. I mean, Hillary was then handed the perfect opportunity to clean up one of her infamous comments about Trump supporters, and she managed to botch it successfully.
How has your understanding of his support evolved? You were criticized a lot, probably rightly, for using the word deplorables for many of his followers. But how do you view the evolution of his followers and what it is that they want most of all from him?
Well, first of all, I said only about half were.
Well, are you doubling down on deplorables?
But I have to say, I gave a speech, for example, about something called the alt-right, which, the press had no idea what I was talking about. Certainly the public had no idea what I was talking about. But I was beginning to see this really disturbing rhetoric, racist rhetoric, sexist rhetoric, the kind of authoritarian, demagogic claims about our politics. And it worried me. So, I tried to kind of put that into the political debate. It wasn't a bug, it was the feature. They wanted to follow someone who was, demeaning President Obama, was, making claims about me.
Okay, she's trying to paint herself as some kind of visionary who saw the rise of the alt-right coming, but in the same breath argued people were just waiting for someone willing to say demeaning things about Obama or herself. The problem is that this playbook is older than most people realize. The tactic of linking mainstream Republicans to extremist groups goes back to the days of Lyndon B. Johnson, who famously ran ads featuring the KKK to take shots at Barry Goldwater, and Hillary tried a similar strategy during the 2016 election. We saw the same thing happen with the Tea Party, which was routinely portrayed as a radical movement rather than a grassroots political one. Chances are, we'll see the same narrative used against future Republican candidates too. Of course, it wouldn't be a Hillary Clinton interview without a brand new conspiracy theory making an appearance. So, let's take a look at her latest one.
I wonder if you think it's possible, and I think maybe this has run through your head, that the Trump family has dynastic ambitions, whether it's Donald Jr. or someone in the family who might pretend to succeed him.
Well, David, you and I think alike. I think, number one, if he could figure out a way to stay, he would. My husband likes to say, if he tries to stay, I'm running again. But if that's unlikely, which we have to hope it is, I don't get the feeling he's all warm and fuzzy about JD Vance.
No.
I don't think he is warm and fuzzy about nearly anybody other than himself, and who is closest enough to him, and that is possibly a son or a daughter.
A son or a daughter?
A son or a daughter.
Now, the question was really less about so-called Trump dynasty and more about speculating whether Trump would actually leave office in 2028, while also taking a shot at the vice president in the process. It really is absurd how obsessed some people are with the next presidential race. We're not even through the midterms yet, and they're acting as if the nominees have already been decided. The reality is we're still 2.5 years away from Election Day. Just look at what's happening with Newsom and the recent probe. It's proof that everything can change between now and then. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, keep thinking.